Well, I mean, in a work of fiction, you have to have conflict. If there isn't a problem in a story, it can almost by definition not be a story.
A good story that you make in a film is a miracle. And, you know, it's very hard to work miracles.
And if Stanley trusts you, if he trusts you, you're all right. If he doesn't, beware.
We did 105 takes on this thing, and take 2 was perfect.
I've never done more than, say, 15 takes before in my life.
Directing a movie, if you try to do it properly, is not always fun.
C'est bien, no worries.
I'm sorry, I had a very bad day today, and
It happens. Listen, I'm the host of the show, and once in a while I forget. That's not good. You can forget.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's happened before. If it's just something, you know, not normal in my schedule, and I think this was not part of the press day, right, that you had, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So don't worry about it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, c'est bien. Ça va, monsieur, ça va.
Yes, ça va. And, where are you from?
New York. I'm born and raised in New York City. I now live about 100 miles north of New York City.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Very pretty countryside.
Yeah.
I work in a radio station.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Let me say right off the bat, Gregory, I enjoyed the documentary tremendously. It was quite a gift for somebody like me who, you know, has always been a fan of Stanley Kubrick, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny because I had somebody on, excuse me, a filmmaker the other day who cast Malcolm McDowell in his new film. So it's a more recent Malcolm McDowell. It's not the Alex that we know and love from. And I was telling him that when I was a young child, my parents had, you know, the soundtrack to A Clockwork Orange in their record collection. And it was, even the record was terrifying. You know, the photos and the whole thing was so disturbing to me.
I love it. I love that record. I usually, I still listen to it actually quite often. I love it. I really love it. It's not frightening to me. It's so artistic.
Yeah,
because it's also inspired by classical music, and I think that what did Wendy Carlos is tremendous. It's really it was so modern. So that's why I still love it.
Except for Singing in the Rain, right?
Oh yeah, of course. It's very old song, actually.
Yeah, but it was the combination of the imagery on the album and the photos from the movie, and also my parents' description of the film, you know, that kind of, so it took many years for me to go see it because I was kind of, you know, nervous and was worried about how disturbing it would be. And of course it's very disturbing. But on the other hand, you know, I do like how, and yes, I apologize, we've started. It may feel like we haven't even started yet, but that's my show. It's sort of casual. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
Désolé. But you know, that we as viewers initially were repelled by the character of Alex, but then Kubrick, because he's so amazing, you know, we come to sympathize with him as well, you know.
it's a bit weird because he's not a he is the main character, but we're afraid of calling him a hero. He's more like even an anti-hero. He's not even an anti-hero because it's still a hero somewhere. So it's very weird because we are afraid of identifying ourselves to him, as Kubrick says it as well. And still we cannot help it because in the second part of the film, we can't help saying, oh my God, what are they doing to that guy? I wouldn't like to be that guy. And even having thoughts like, oh my God, the poor guy.
Yes.
And still he committed horrific and horrible crimes. And I think it's very, very rare in films, in the history of film, to feel uncomfortable from
because we like somebody
yourself to the main character. And I think that's quite, I don't know if it's intentional of Kubrick, because one mustn't forget that this is a book adaptation.
That's right.
And in the book, it's quite the same thing. So it doesn't really come from Kubrick. It comes from the story in the book. Again, people sometimes they are misunderstanding, I think, not Kubrick, but the fact that he really adapted most of his films. He didn't write them. So it doesn't come from deep inside of him, but still it took a great amount of time for Kubrick to choose the subject that really him. So again, it has something to do, of course, with his thoughts and his will and everything.
Sure. Well, he chose it.
Disturbing, but it's a disturbing. It's a great process, but it can be disturbing when you really think about that. I mean, this is the story of the book first. But of course, the power of Kubrick and the power of the images and the way he shoots it, the way he directs it, is really, really, it's really disturbing.
It is.
And I think that you cannot, I'm not sure that if you ask the audience if they hate Alex, they would say so, because they see Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
They see a great actor. And I think it surpasses probably the film and the character and the story. Probably, because you feel pain for him. And you feel uncomfortable in feeling pain for him.
Right. Well, we don't want to. We might identify with him is an uncomfortable thing. Sure.
Again, it's very rare. I think film history to feel that way.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable with dealing with your thoughts and your emotions. So that, okay, what should I think of that? It's really disturbing.
Well, tell me, I shared with you my introduction. That was my introduction to Kubrick, was not having seen any of his films yet. I think my parents did take me, pretty sure, to a theatrical screening. I don't know if it was first run of 2001, but certainly that had a huge impact. But between those two things, the album of the soundtrack rather of Clockwork Orange and actually seeing 2001, this is my introduction to Kubrick. And I wonder maybe if you could just share your introduction to maybe your first encounter with Kubrick. Film.
My first encounter with Kubrick was, I think I was 10 years old, and I've seen Barry Lyndon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was a wow.
You grew up in Paris, right?
Yeah, I live in Paris.
So it's a city of cinema?
Oh, yes.
So it's not that unusual maybe that it
was
in
your city of
cinema,
of the authorship of the new wave, etc. I mean, we are still into that a little bit. And I remember very clearly when I've seen Barry Lyndon that the two things that really struck were, of course, the incredible imagery and the music.
Yeah.
Again, classical music, but it was so, I kept it in, I still keep it with me today. I love it. I really love it. And I think Kubrick has that, he is incredible in choosing music. He wanted, he wanted the best stuff for each department. And the music department was one of the most important thing for him, because it's also a narrative. It tells the story, and you keep it with you. I would compare it. I was going to say with Ennio Morricone, but it's different because Ennio Morricone really creates music himself. He doesn't take it from classical music, but it's the same thing when you listen to the music of Barry Lyndon or Clockwork Orange or 2001. It's used from classical music, and still you have in mind these films and not the classical music.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much. It belongs so much to these films, the powerful films, that for the audience, or for myself, I refer it to Kubrick rather than referring to the Mozart or Beethoven or Ligeti or whatever, or whoever. It's weird. So Barry Lyndon was a shock to me, because that's also I was very young. I was too young. And
You were.
When I've seen that small boy of my age, Barry's son, dying in that sequence when he dies, it was terrible for me, because I never could have imagined that a kid could die, and a kid could die just in front of my eyes in a movie. I couldn't conceive it. Why? How come it's possible that a director shows a kid dying in a movie? It made me the same thing with Jaws, by the way, when the kid got,
Yeah.
Sorry, I had the same impression. I've seen Jaws the same year than Barry Lyndon, actually. So that's why I'm saying that. So I was double shocked that year, but it stayed with me. I think to me, it's probably the most beautiful film by Stanley Kubrick, but I think it's not very objective, because I think it really touched me when I was a young kid, and I think that everything that touches everybody when they're kids, that it stays with them.
Absolutely true.
And it's more, it works more like souvenirs, emotional souvenir or sense memory, I would say, than anything else. So it's not being objective on the art of that film. Still, this is a masterpiece, of course, but I think that you put it into another level the fact that you were touched because you were very young, and that you got probably touched much more than if you had discovered today as an adult. Probably, I don't know. I'm doing like a psychology there, but
Please.
Voila.
Well, certainly his work opens itself up to psychology, or the thought, in psychological interpretation. I mean, how could you not want to psychologically interpret Kubrick and his films? They open themselves to that, more than most filmmakers. You mentioned Spielberg. Really, it doesn't. There's some of it. You can see a little bit even in The Fabelmans, maybe,
well,
it's pretty much there for you without interpretation.
Yeah, I love Spielberg, really.
I know you do.
Oh yeah, probably, but I think too many people have compared Kubrick to, or critics, or film critics, or historians, to Spielberg, and saying, or Spielberg to Kubrick, sorry, saying that it was he was the new Kubrick, he was his son, or everything. I really don't believe so. And Michel Ciment,
I'm not,
the same thoughts, and I do as well, because Kubrick would never do a happy ending when it has nothing to do with a happy ending.
Right.
And that's the big, and that's what Michel Ciment says.
Yeah. That's
Spielberg would
bigger,
always do a happy ending, even when he hasn't got to do it.
Kubrick, that boat off the coast.
That's a big major difference.
Yeah, that boat would have sunk with Dreyfus and Scheider. It would not have made it It would not have made it back for a sequel. So just so people know, Kubrick by Kubrick, which is what we're talking about, this documentary, which by the way is currently available on digital and on demand here in the States anyway, is a work of archival interviews and mostly around a series of interviews conducted by Michael, isn't it? It's Michael Ciment?
Michel Ciment.
Ciment, right? Yeah, Michel Ciment. Pardon me.
Ciment.
Michel Ciment. Were you aware of Michel Ciment got this believable access to Kubrick
Yes,
during
absolutely.
the arc of this man's,
Yeah,
during the height of his career, during this period starting with the films we're talking about, right through to Eyes Wide Shut, rather. And were you familiar with these interviews, or with the work, or with the journalism of Michel Ciment when you were younger?
yes, absolutely. Actually, he met with Kubrick until Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. Full Metal Jacket. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's right. Not the last film.
He made 4.
He died.
Yeah.
So he couldn't promote it, right?
I think he could have done it if he hadn't died.
Right.
It won't happen. But he met with him a few times, and he audio taped, I think, 4 major interviews with Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't intended to be used like I used it. Of course, it was intended to be transcribed into a book that Michel Ciment published called Kubrick. And
Clever title.
and he wanted to make sure, and Kubrick as well, that's why he agreed to be audio taped, because he wanted his own words to be respected. Mm-hmm. And he verified Ciment's transcripts before publishing it. So that was the intention, is just to, because he wouldn't agree for any interview, like filming interview, he wasn't into that. He didn't want it that. The audio tape was intended to be used for that purpose of book making a book. And Michel Ciment kept the audio tapes all these years. And I knew, of course, I knew about it, and I listened to these audio tapes a few years ago, and I wanted to make a movie on Stanley Kubrick, but I wasn't ready yet. There have been a lot of great documentaries and films on Stanley Kubrick. So the thing to me was just, okay, what's the point in doing another film on Kubrick if it wasn't to bring something new? And the novelty is wasn't not to bring, I would say, information, because of course it has been transcribed and it has been used, and people have been using Kubrick words in the book, or in books, or in other writing interviews that Kubrick could have made before. So everybody talked for Kubrick, but you never had the chance to hear him saying it and his viewpoint on things. So that was really the goal. My objective was really to let Kubrick express himself, or the way he expressed himself. And I think it does something. I wish that my film could really add a little thing to the other films. It doesn't, not diminishing my film, but it's just, I think it adds really the fact that it humanizes Stanley Kubrick, because too many things has been said on Stanley Kubrick, like bad and negative things, in the way that he was a crazy guy, he lived like a recluse, he was a tyrant, whatever, all the negative things that you could read on him. But from the moment that you listen to him, you're very surprised, because you say, okay, is that guy Stanley Kubrick really?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like I'm listening to the guy that I read on.
Right, or that maybe his physical image, which is kind of like, you know, feral.
Absolutely, his voice really doesn't matches even all the pictures that we could see,
Yeah.
because yeah, we could be kind of not afraid of him, but you know, he's not very he didn't look like very friendly person when you look at the pictures here. He was very severe and everything, but no. And I think, well, no, he was tough at work, but I think he wasn't that kind of person in personal life. And I think that his voice really helps to understand more something about Stanley Kubrick, and about the person, about the human being he was, and about his thoughts. When you listen to him, really, you see him thinking. See. Only with a voice you can visualize him having his thoughts, and you know, trying to reflect on his art and his films, probably much more on his art and on the art of cinematography. He was more comfortable in talking about that than analyzing himself or analyzing his films. By the way, a lot of people say, when they listen to Kubrick, or when they watch my film, they say, "Oh, he doesn't analyze." It's like, it sounds like a critic. They say on the film, on my film, by saying that Kubrick doesn't really analyze himself much. But I mean, what can I do about that? I mean, that's Kubrick. Yeah. So what's the problem? Yeah, he was a humble guy. He was a shy guy, and for him, I mean, his movies really expressed what he really felt, and he didn't need to explain much more. So I think that one has to respect that it's very important to respect that. And I think that he wanted people to respect his privacy and the you know, the way he worked on that. But still, I think it really gives more insight to who Kubrick was. And also, I would say it gives you the impression that, to me, it gave me the impression that he was giving like kind of a master class to people, to passionate and youngsters, probably. I think that it would be great that young people or young aspiring filmmakers could really listen closely to Stanley Kubrick and to the way he expresses himself in a humble way, in a shy way. He was shy, of course, but he was humble as well. He really never seemed to me pretentious in any way. And I think that's a very, very, very important thing to know about Stanley Kubrick. He is one of the greatest director ever, and he wasn't way pretentious. He was a big worker. He worked tremendously on his films, on his subject, on his script, on his everything, and that's a great lesson. And I think that's a great lesson to have. And if you have it from Stanley Kubrick, I think that any aspiring filmmaker can probably think about it before saying they are great filmmakers themselves before making any movies, because you have a lot of that too today, you know. And I think nowadays, when you see that you have so many, you can watch so many movies everywhere on the platforms and everywhere. You have so many you have too much.
Yeah, you have too much access.
Too much of it's too much, and people don't see the point, and people don't they don't take the time. You don't take time. I think you should take time to listen to Stanley Kubrick, because that guy is a great lesson for everyone.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes.
Pardon me, 1 second. Somebody came in. I just have to make sure they're okay.
Oh, sure.
I'll be back in 1 second,
Yes,
and we can wrap it up. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm not at fault. I really. Yeah. Make sure you're all right. What's that? Can I get your glass of water? Give me a second. And I'm just, I was on the late Zoom call. All right, thank you for waiting. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem.
Gregory. All right, so you're a great guest because my favorite thing is somebody who loves to talk about their subject matter and can do so in nice, nuanced, way. It's the perfect guest. So, and so the name again of the film is Kubrick by Kubrick. It's directed by Gregory Monro, all the way from Paris, France, and it is currently on digital platforms and on demand. And as of March 21st. And listen, you know, anybody who's a fan, I mean, his body of work speaks for itself. So, you know, and this is just a gift to fans of cinema or of Kubrick himself. It's wonderful to have this contribution. So thank you very much. And I would love to do another one of these with you at some point, you know, and talk about some of these filmmakers again, like, you know, when you have time.
Oh yes, of course, with pleasure, really. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you, and take care.
You too, please.
Okay.
Right, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, merci. Au
Merci
revoir.
bien. Merci bien. Au revoir.